This time on the Random Junk Channel, we are going to be doing the Point Dread Lighthouse from Lemax. So here's your piece if you've never seen it before. Came out a few years ago. And when it's plugged in, we turn it on, nothing. It's absolutely dead. So, and this is a brand new power supply I'm using. Just actually unwrapped it a couple of days ago. So I know it's not the power supply. As far as the unit goes, most likely it's got a bad motor. Well, most Lemax, when the unit completely fails, the motor has shorted out and the unit becomes non-operable. So on the bottom, it's solid resin. There's no access and there's no screws anywhere. So we need to get into this without, dismantling the whole thing if possible. Now, I'm assuming the motor is probably going to be right in this section here. So I'll turn it sideways so you can see somewhere between this seam and the base. Looking around, I noticed that right here, it's not glued down, or the glue has separated, one of the two, but it flexes. So I'm assuming this outer ring breaks free. Probably have to separate the whole house is what it looks like. So where I'm going to start is I'm going to start with this outer ring, which is where all the rope, the fencing is, around where these characters would spin. So you can use a spudger. I'm going to use a small screwdriver because it fits into the gap a little better than the spudger. The spudgers are just, some of them are just too fat. And I'm going to start where it's separated and then work my way around, cracking the glue as I go. You can use heat. I'm going to try not to, only because this is plastic. The base is resin. The plastic has a tendency of warping or melting. Resin can handle the heat a lot more than the plastic can. So we're going to, usually you can pry it before you have to apply heat. So we're going to try and separate it the old-fashioned way first. And if heat's required, then I will apply heat. But you got to be careful because sometimes the heat transfer is just too much. Now, if yours hasn't started separating, like this one was already started when I got it, probably just from age and heat, meaning where we live, you can apply heat. Try to use directed heat at the seam and the seam only, and do it from the underside where the gap is, not from the top where the plastic is. And while I'm doing this, as I'm rolling it to keep prying the glue, and if you don't notice, I have a finger on the top, and that's so if it pops, it doesn't throw a piece off and potentially break something. There we go. So one little piece is still holding it right over here. There we go. And yep. That's how you take it apart. Alright, so on the bottom, here's your circuitry. And let's see what we got here. On the circuit, we have two circuit boards. We have the main circuit board with a blob chip that, doesn't look so good. I don't think that's the problem though. Speaker, lights. Can't see what this one says. Power incoming, lights. This is your light distribution board. Here is your power to the light distribution board. It's got two different colors, probably because there's two different voltages. So this one here should be the motor, which is the lower right hand corner of the circuit board. Can't get my finger in there because the plug for the switch is in my way. But this way you can see which one I unplugged. Now, let's see if it turns on and we get lights and sound. There we go. So, it is the motor, which is pretty common. So the motor is right here. The next issue is the motor is put in from this side, so up here. I'm going to remove this base, so I'm going to unplug the rolling wheel and the incoming power. I'm going to get those out of my way, and we just have to deal with this. So here's the base. You can see there's no screws. We've got lots of glue string, but here's where the screws screw in from up here. The only screws on the bottom is for the circuit board. There's one there, and they are loose, so I'm probably going to tighten those up. This circuit board is glued in the distribution board. You tighten these two circuit board screws up while we're here. They can come loose from the vibration and heat and cold, expansion, contraction. There we go. So now the circuit board's not loose, and it is missing two screws, but I think that's factory because there's no threads cut into the plastic, so I wouldn't worry about that. So now we need to separate this base, which means we need to remove the actual house itself, or yeah, the lighthouse, or the body. That's another way to call it. So it doesn't look like the out part is glued on at all. Let me take a look. Nope, there's no glue there. So all the glue, I see there's glue here. And there's glue on the other side. And it looks to be it. Now I'm sure there's probably glue under the flange. Here and here is just where it oozed out. So 180 degrees away from each other. Huh, this character here, both his ankles are broken. He's barely holding on. Looks like he's been re-glued. He's just glued at an angle. As long as he fits through the door, I guess it doesn't matter. This one here. Let's see if I can get us the spudger in here. Just sit flush. Yes. Or screwdriver. Ooh, there's a gap right here. Let's see. I wonder if this house was dropped. Because right where this guy's broke, this is cracked. I don't get the history on it. I just get told it doesn't work, which is fine. History sometimes isn't important. I'm not a doctor. I don't need to know the history of the patient. It would be nice if somebody says, oh yeah, I dropped it, or it fell into a bucket of water. That helps. But it's not always necessary. Go. I know it sounds really horrible when you start breaking the glue. Take your time and work your way around at the seam. The glue they use is a resin glue or a type of super glue. It's really brittle, so it'll usually crack. There we go. So here's your insides. Here's your light wires that go all the way up. You got 3 sets, green and black. Here's your speaker. The resin chipped a little bit where the crack is, but just a small amount, which is fine because once you can use that as an alignment tool or an alignment guide. This is the drive shaft that drives the top motion. And we have 1 screw here, one screw here, and the other screw is probably under this clear plate, unless they just only use 2 screws, which is rare. Lemax always does things in 3s. So first thing we'll do is we'll take out the 2 screws and see if it comes apart. Oh, there's a 3rd screw. It's right here under the glue. This is one thing I don't like when Lemax does it, and again, they don't do it like intentionally just to make you mad. They do it because their stuff's not designed to be repaired. The screw is underneath the hard resin glue. That's why I couldn't see it until I started flexing it and the glue started cracking. The problem is once you get glue in the top of a screw, you can't put anything in it to get the glue out. So just kind of chip the glue away. I'm using a pick to try and clear out the X for the Phillips. You can use heat, but again, this is plastic. So what you can do is you can get this out and then heat the screw up, and then if you can get the resin glue to break down enough, you can scrape it out or just replace the screw. I'll probably replace the screw if I have a similar screw lying around. Also be careful if you're using a pick that you don't slip and then shove the pick through your finger. I have to keep pressure on the plate because I'm just balancing this on that center of the bottom, and if I let it go, it'll just tip over. Alright, that's not going to do it. So I was able to scrape 2 sides out cleanly, enough to get a small blade screwdriver in here with some torque, because the angle of the pitch of the blade screwdriver is better than the Phillips. There we go. And now we can take this out, or lift it at least. So the speaker wire is pulled really tight, and that's because it's glued all the way around. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to unscrew the speaker versus taking all the glue off, and move the speaker out of my way so I can tip this plate up. In case you need to replace your speaker, this is one of their higher powered speakers. It's an 8 ohm 2 watt versus the 8 ohm half watt that they normally run, and it's got a more of a plastic type cone. It's a higher quality speaker. It's kind of the same speaker they run in TVs and small higher end electronics. So that gives me enough slack to move it over and see the mechanism inside. There's your motor. To take the motor out, of course, there's 3 screws. 2 of the screws are accessible. 1 screw's underneath the drive system, so we have to take the 4 screws out for the drive system. Usually there's only 3, but this one's got an extra screw. That's 1. Two. free. And this one has glue and gunk in it as well. Awesome. This one's going to have to be replaced, but here's number 4. The whole top of the screw is mangled. I don't know if somebody else tried to fix it or if it was put in by the factory and they stripped it. So I'm gonna, same as that other bad screw, so I'm just gonna isolate it so I know to replace them. So now we'll take the top of the gearbox or drive mechanism off. Right there. Here's your drive mechanism. And then now we can get to the 3rd screw, which is hidden over here. It does have a small notch for it, but it's not big enough. It still covers the screw. So they tried. If you really want to, while you have it apart, you can make the notch bigger, unless you have a unit that's been redone. I noticed different generations, small things change, and they change because of assembly processes. They don't care about disassembly. And here is our motor drive system. Now I need to fish the motor wire out. Actually, I have a better idea. Since we know the motor's bad, I'm not going to fish the wire. I'm going to just cut the wire off the motor because I need that wire to solder the new motor to. So now that we have this out, to prevent loss of the parts, I'm going to go ahead and stick this cover back on and put a couple screws in. Thinking about it, looking at it from a different perspective, I might be able to put this back on without taking this cover back off. Because I should be able to. The notch isn't centered, but it should allow me to still get a screwdriver in there. This motor is absolutely drenched in grease. And I do know that one of these screws is from the bottom, but they're all the same, and I'm going to replace a couple of screws here in a minute. And that's probably the leading cause, because all that on top, you can see the shine right in here, that's all grease. So, yeah, motors don't like to be inundated with lubrication. So, I'm going to take off the belt and unscrew the motor. Don't lose the little screws, and then take your motor out. This is an SRF 300CA. This model is an SRF 300CA, yes. 11,440 RPM. Right. Oh, this is, yeah, 11,440. Alright. Make sure you pop off the little pulley, unless you have spares, which in those gear and pulley kits that I link to when I need to, they have the little pulleys. Now I'm going to grab a motor. And a lot of the motors don't come with super long pigtails, so that's why having the length in there will allow me to solder to it. So here's the replacement motor. Of course, because we're going to have to cut and trim the wire and solder them, we're going to need some heat shrink. So I'm going to grab a piece of heat shrink. trim off a little excess of the little extra of the wire. It has a very short piece of wire exposed, and that's exposed for like soldering to a circuit board. It's pre-tinned, it's short, and goes right through a circuit board. We're not soldering to a circuit board, we're soldering back to the wires itself. Just need something to hold that up. There we go. It'll hold it a little bit for me. Sometimes you can wedge a screwdriver to help hold stuff up. I'm just going to hold it with my finger. So since my fat fingers don't fit in here, I'm going to use the needle nose pliers to hold the wire so I can strip it. This isn't working so well. I'll just pull them out the bottom. How about that? Here's the red. And the black. One. And two. So I got the soldering iron on, it's all heated up. I'm going to tin these wires real quick before I shove them back through the base. Here's one. Now, if you want to break all the glue connections and just pull the whole thing out, you are more than welcome to do it. I'm just going to do it this way, just because it saves on time gluing everything back together. Now, when you do glue the whole unit back together, I would recommend using a good quality hot glue versus a resin glue. That's me. If you want to use a resin type glue, I use the Gorilla, what is it called? Clear Gorilla Glue. This one. They changed the container. If you want to make this a real permanent fixture, but because things break and it's going to break again, not saying it's going to break because you broke it. It's going to break because it's mechanical, and mechanical stuff breaks. You want to be able to take it back apart. That's a good screw. Good screw. Good screw. And this. That's a good screw. I just have to throw away all the bad screws. Now, before you forget, once you get your wires prepped, make sure you slide your heat shrink on. If you forget, if you have a liquid electrical tape, you can use that, or if you have regular electrical tape, you can put a small piece over it, but try not to forget and just use heat shrink. And this is where it gets fidgety. The red, and now we'll do the black. Once we get the black on, we'll then slide the heat shrink over and we'll solder it. Black wire kept slipping out of my finger, so that's why I use the tweezers. It's fine, we're good. It's all twisted. And I'll solder it together. There we go. And we slide the heat shrink down. Normally I use a lighter. If you watch other videos, I use a lighter to do the heat shrink. Because of where this is located inside the unit, I am going to use the heat gun. And then we're going to reassemble the base and turn it on. If I can get the heat shrink to slide down, there we go. I have a fine point on here which will help direct the heat. There we go. You screw the screws in, make them snug, don't over tighten them, you'll strip the screw or you'll strip the motor. Come across a lot of motors from the manufacturers that one screw is always loose, and that's because either the screw is missing all of its threads or the motor housing is stripped out. Just push the pulley on and try to line it up so it's straight, so there's less wear on the belt. Normally I replace the belts, but this belt's actually in good shape. It doesn't need a replacement yet. Now, we fit this back into its hole. This is one of the reasons I usually use the lighter, is because you see how long that thing is taking to cool down. It doesn't turn off till it's cooled down. So the noise. Just realized the drive gear fell out and I didn't put it in. Oh wait, that's the idler. Never mind. There you go. Screw it back in. Just screw them down snug. Don't screw them so tight. You're just screwing the plastic. You'll crack them. So we're just going to make sure they're all snug. And then this is an idler. And it goes over on the inside here. Right there. Nope, nope. Goes over on this side. It's got two idlers and a drive. And we just need to move the motor wires over. Probably put a dab of glue on them to hold them out of the way. There we go. Get this hot. I'm going to glue the wires down so they quit popping up and potentially getting in the way of the idler. And while it's doing that, I'm going to look for a couple of screws. So while this is getting hot, I'm going to pause it for a minute because this takes like 4 minutes or 5 minutes now. And I'm looking for a couple of screws for the top piece here. When I come back, I'll probably have the top piece assembled, meaning I'll have the glue in and then this piece on and the speaker back. And then we'll finish the rest of the assembly on camera. But basically this is just gluing the wires and then sticking in the 3 screws. I just got to replace because this is the last of the good screws. The rest of the screws have damaged heads. So I'll be back in just a moment. Okay. Alright, it's been about 4 or 5 minutes. I glued the wires in. Basically I just folded them and put a dab of glue so the wires stay to the side of the motor. And I got 2 replacement screws. You can see this one is kind of dull and that one's shiny and that one over there is shiny. So it's got 2 new screws. The other 2 screws have been tossed in the garbage so they don't accidentally get used or attempted to be used. Now, what's going to be easier? Sticking it in the top and then putting it in the bottom. That might be easier. Let's find out. That actually was easier. So sticking it into the top part and then feeding the shaft into the bottom was easier. Now comes the gluing. So this is warm, it's not hot, I turned it off, but we need to glue it back together. Like I said, I use hot glue versus the other glue. Other glue technically easier to use in this instance, but you risk breaking more of it if you take it apart again. I use SureBonder. Of all the hot glues I've ever tested, if you watch previous videos where I've talked about it, the SureBonder has the best bond strength for hot glue. It also has a higher temperature rating, which means that your glue gun has to get hotter, and it takes more ambient heat to make the glue soft. I get it off of Amazon, and I get it in the monster rolls. I buy 75-foot rolls at a time, or 77-foot rolls. I can't remember the exact number. And then I just cut it to length. So I usually cut like 18 inches or so and have it hang out of the glue gun. But anyhow, the stuff that you buy at Home Depot and Lowe's and Ace Hardware, Ace brand, Gorilla brand, they all work. I just found that SureBonder works the best. That's me. You might have a different experience. So if you can use hot glue, use whatever you prefer, but I just find that SureBonder, being with a higher melting point, works better, especially out here in Arizona, where just having these in your shed, the sun will dissolve the glue, or excuse me, soften the glue. It doesn't dissolve the glue, it just softens it to the point where you can't, it doesn't stay together. So I'm just squirting it under the edges, barely lifting the house just enough. And I'm only doing it on the two sides like they did factory. And what's nice is if this gets in that screw, the hot glue comes out really easy. So a little bit oozed out over here. Once it's dry or cooled down, it will easily come off. You can use a razor knife or a pair of tweezers or pliers and pull it off. But it can already lift the whole thing. That's why I like SureBonder. It bonds really fast and it bonds really well. Alright, let's plug this in and make sure it works. Because normally I don't reassemble it without testing it first, but I have faith, and it's hot glue. I can break it apart if it has to be. It did go together really easy, which kind of scares me. Usually when you put these together, you have to fight with them because they don't want to line up. Point dread. Which way is the front? According to the picture, this is the front. Yes, that would explain why there's a Grim Reaper in the window. There's no there's no alignment tabs to make this center. Okay, here we go. There we go. Let it run for a second, and then we'll turn it off and we'll glue it together, and then we'll do the low light test. Alright, so the motor is an SRF 300CA. Let's do a quick recap. Well, I'm letting this one back up again. 300CA, and the other motor, meaning that there's a couple of companies that have similar models, is an RF 300CA. I've also seen it listed as an RF 300C. Basically, the 300 is the body size. The RF or SRF is the height, and then you're looking for an 11,440 RPM. Some of the new motors say 11,400 RPM. That's fine. It's 40 RPM. It just means this will spin a hair slower, not negligible. But if you get like an SRF 300CA 8600 or an 8660, this is going to spin at half the speed almost of what it does currently. They also make it in an SRF 300CA 20,000, which means it's going to spin twice as fast. So try and keep it close at 11,440, give or take a few hundred RPM. Everybody thinks that's really quick. That's how fast the armature of the motor is spinning. Once it goes through the dozen gears, which converts the speed from speed and to torque, it slows it down. because it's really easy to stall that motor with your fingers. Once you stick it through all the gears, you have a really hard time stalling it out because of the gearbox, the gear ratio. So it's just, it has like cars. Your engine's powerful, but your transmission makes it go fast or gives you more torque, especially if you drive a truck. You want the torque more than the horsepower, because the torque's what gets your load moving and keeps it moving. Your horsepower gives you your speed. And that's pretty close to center. Make sure. Yeah, it's already bonded together. It's that fast. All right, we'll do the low light now. There we go. So it's pretty basic. It's only got 4 lights. One green light in the back that uses that clear as like a window, so you don't see the stuff behind it. Smart idea. You got 2 lights illuminating the front upwards to give you that eerie ambiance glow, which accents the shadowing on the skulls and the features of the building. So your pipes, your windows, your stonework, the underlighting or uplighting helps accentuate all that and makes it give it a more detailed appearance than what it has. Then you got your 2 lights right here, which do all the work. And then you have the 1 white light when the Grim Reaper in the window talks, the light comes on. The rest of it is the other character supposedly speaking. But when the main character speaks, of course, you got your warm white light that turns on right there. There you go. So, there is, lights are coming back. There is the Point Dread Lighthouse repair. It's not too horrible. It's a pretty easy one. It does take a little patience, I guess you could say, where when you open it up, pry around the edges, and then take the top off. If you don't have spare screws, like I have a whole bunch up here, I have a pin. You can buy hobby screws on Amazon. Most people have screws lying around. You can take your time and clean out the glue. The one that had the glue, I just threw away. The other one that was stripped out and at an angle, which I'm wondering if this was open before, I just threw that one away because it was stripped out. And luckily a blade screwdriver, because of the sharp corners, they can dig in and grab it. But there you go. Not too bad. Took less than an hour total on camera. If the hot glue gun stayed hot all the time and then just dump glue out constantly, you could do it in a little bit less time because you don't have to wait for things to heat up. And if you're not showing somebody how to do it, you can do it really quick. So I'm going to just clean her up because we got foam up in here from the packaging, so I'm going to take that out. And then I got to clean up the glue on that side that came out. And I'll put this back in the box and send it back to its owner. So until the next one, thanks for watching. And again, like normal, any questions, comments, put them below. I try to answer them as fast as I can, but sometimes work is too much and I have to take a break from the comments while I take care of, making money. So other than that, more videos shall be coming. This one's been delayed because currently our editing computer's crashed. Once it's up and running, we'll be, pumping these out again faster for you. But alrighty, thanks for watching. See you the next time.